Hello, this is Angela Anderson. Thanks for joining me for this acrylic painting tutorial. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to paint this really easy and simple spooky forest. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I've got my husband Mark with me.
Hey there, everybody.
He's in chat tonight, so if you've got questions while I'm painting, you can ask those and I'll try to answer. Let's get started. Alrighty, so I decided to use a long canvas today, but if you don't have one of these, you can just use one of the smaller canvases and crop the image. It's real easy, just to kind of adjust it. But I thought it would be kind of fun to do it on the panoramic canvas. So I've got an 8 by 16 inch Pro Cotton series from Fredrix. And I haven't done anything special to it. It's gallery wrap. That just means that it's wrapped and the staples are on the back. So it's got some nice thick sides here. So I'm maybe going to paint those as we go. I'm not really sure. But sometimes when I do these gallery wrap canvases, what I'll do is after the fact, I'll just paint the whole thing black on the edges and it kind of almost frames it out. So it's kind of a nice, easy way of doing it. Okay. And then the brushes I'm going to use, you're going to want a large flat of some sort, especially if you're going to use a larger canvas. So I've grabbed my 3-inch Aspen from Princeton, and then I've got a 12 Bright from the 6100 series. And Filbert, this one is the 6 Filbert from Aspen series. All these are Princeton brushes. And a variety of sizes of rounds. So a 124 round. I've got a 2 round in the smaller. I'm not sure which ones I'm going to need exactly, but I've got different sizes of trees. So we're going to start with the smaller in the background. And then as we come forward, we'll have more increasing the width of the brushes. So we may need the wider brushes for that. And then for the foreground, you're going to want some sort of a foliage brush. So I've got my Deerfoot stipplers and my blenders here, just whichever one you prefer to use for the floral in the foreground. And I also saw some grasses, so I'm going to grab my fan brush for that. This is a Dakota number 3 fan, and a small liner brush for our smaller branches, and we'll be good to go. Now you can leave the smaller branches out. This image can be really easily simplified, so if you're not good with small branches and things, you could leave that part out when I get to it. And then I'm going to grab a palette knife to do some mixing. Let's go ahead. Oops, sorry, my microphone is in the shot there. Carbon black, burnt sienna, yellow oxide, ultramarine blue, Dioxazine purple, Quinacridone Magenta, and I grabbed a little smidge of turquoise, phthalo turquoise, because I saw a little bit of teal in the tree foliage. So, and then this is titanium white, lots of it, and a little bit of zinc white and some glazing medium. And I used fluid acrylics for this, but if you don't have the fluid acrylics, you can use your heavy body acrylics just to add a little bit of water as you go. So I just figured the fluid acrylics would be easier to do the tree trunks. All right. So to start out with, on the background, I'm going to need quite a bit of my white, my kind of bluish white color here. So I'm going to go ahead and just mix it directly over here. Let me see, that's probably not enough. A little bit more white, and then I'm just going to need just a smidge of my ultramarine blue, so just a tiny drop in there, if I can get it to come out. So like that, and then a little bit of burnt sienna. You could use burnt umber if you have it too. They don't make it in the fluid acrylic, so I decided to use burnt sienna, and a tiny touch of carbon black, which is going to replicate the burnt umber that I would have used. All right, so that's it. And I'm going to use my palette knife here and mix that up. If it's too dark, we can add more white. But hopefully this will give us a nice, like, light blue-gray color. That looks really good. A little bit more blue. That carbon black is very, whoops. So paint booger there. Sorry.
Can you explain that to our non-American friends in case they don't know the slang term?
All right.
So I guess that's a no. I'll explain it in chat.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. So that's a pretty color there. I think that'll be good. It's just slightly kind of a warm gray blue color for our background. I think that's really gonna be nice on there. Okay, actually I'm just gonna use my brush here and wipe my palette knife off on that because I'm gonna need all of that color for my canvas anyways. Save it. All right. So I'm going to spray my canvas down, and our really our top third of the canvas is going to be all this sky color. Whoa, my camera is way zoomed out and it doesn't like me moving very fast. Okay, so we're going to see a lot of the foliage through. So we're going to need to go all the way up to the top here, but this bottom quarter or third, I mean, we won't have to cover. All right, and I'm going to get a little bit more white just for like right here. Just a little bit of water. Don't overdo it with the water because you don't want this to become real soupy. Okay, there we go. Oh, it's going on nicely. The fluid acrylics really make this much easier too. They go on like a craft acrylic really. They're very similar to that in the consistency. Now I'm going to go ahead and go down a little bit past where I think I need to. Okay, there we go. And then I'm going to grab my sea sponge. I didn't mention this, but you're going to want to have a sea sponge. And I'm going to grab the little bit of the turquoise and a little bit of my ultramarine blue, and I'm going to mix that with this background color. I don't want it super bright, so I want to really dull this down to almost the same color as the background. Not quite, but it's lifting off. I'm going to have you dry this, and okay. It's just lifting. Let me go ahead and paint this foreground before you do. I'm going to get some of that gray from the sky and add a little bit of the yellow oxide. And we'll just do the bottom. And I'll just blend across to kind of blend it up. Okay, that looks good. Maybe a little bit higher, but I want to make sure that I do this before that background starts to dry, because if it starts to dry, we don't want to mess with it. Okay, that looks good. We'll let Mark take that and dry it real good. I almost started with the gray in the background, but I decided just to show you since it was kind of a specific mixture. So, all right, I'm going to mix a little bit more of that color. So I'm going to grab my white. It's much more soupy using these colors. They are very fluid. So mixing it with the palette knife is a little awkward, but we can get it done. And then a little bit of black. So the ultramarine blue, the black, and a little bit of burnt sienna. And I went a little bit darker this time, because now we're going to start to do our tree trunks. So we're going to want it to be a little bit darker. And then let me go ahead and mix up a little bit of just the dark. So a little bit of black, ultramarine blue, and burnt sienna in almost equal parts. So that'll be my dark gray that I can mix my... And the blue just kind of helps it. I mean, you could really use black and white for this if you didn't want to have to mix colors. If that stresses you out, just use black and white. You don't have to, you know, mix any of these fancy colors like I'm doing here. Totally fine. It'll still look good. Just be a little bit different colors, that's all. So I'm going to get a little bit of that turquoise and the ultramarine blue. And my white. And then just when I'm ready to use this, I can add a little bit of the, I'm going to add a little bit of yellow. Thank you. A little bit of yellow too to make it kind of greenish. There we go. So got a green gray. This will be for some of our foliage. We've got our dark gray for our tree trunks. We've got the gray that we used in our sky background. Down here that we've added a little bit of the darker color to, so I'm gonna use a little bit of white. And you can see it's kind of streaky, so I'm just going to do one more coat on it. That up there doesn't look dry. Up here it's not, but just careful. Yeah, it's fine. I think it was dry enough. And I'm doing it upright this way so that anything that looks like streaks or anything might look, it'll kind of give that effect of the forest in the background. So I'm kind of deliberately leaving it kind of a little bit streaky for that reason. And then I want it a little bit darker along the sides. I'm going to get a little bit of this blue and add that to my gray. I'm going to use it over here on the sides and just kind of blend it into that wet paint. And I'm not worried about this because we're going to be covering up a lot of this in the foreground here. So that was just to kind of get us started. And again, just a little bit darker in the corner. It starts to feel stickier, like your brush just is dragging like mine is starting to do. Just kind of let it go because you don't want to mess with it too much while it's starting to dry. All right, let's go ahead and give it another coat down here. And I'm going to go ahead and just use whatever color used in your sky in the mid-ground right here. So in the transition between the sky and your ground. And that will give it a nice, there we go. Give it a nice transition. Nice and soft. Get some of that background gray and go over this a little bit right here.
So how you doing?
Doing good.
Did you say hi on all that while I was out?
I didn't. I don't know what I was doing actually. I was mixing colors. That's what I was doing. I was here, I promise.
You were here? Okay, just making sure. Somebody was running the show. I went out for a walk.
Yeah.
Welcome, everybody.
I get so into what I'm doing when I'm painting. I do kind of forget where I am. What day is it?
So it's not looking very spooky right now. How much longer till we get to the spooky part?
Oh, we'll get there.
Okay, all right, good.
We'll get there.
Now, you got that sea sponge from Sammy down by the seashore? He sells them next to Sally.
So I want my background to be about that value. It looks like it's about right. I was kind of, when I checked before the show, I I checked it, and that background needs to be right in here. And that way I'll know I have all of these values here to work with for my trees and things. Sorry, I know you were trying to tell a joke there, but...
You couldn't care less. Sorry.
Okay, I'm going to get some of that gray from the background again. And now I've got this turquoise again now with my sea sponge. My sea sponge is damp, but not dripping wet. And there we go. Now it's showing up. Before it was too wet. It was just lifting the color right off the canvas. So it wasn't really working. Want the color to go on, not off. Okay. And in here, in this area right here, I want it to be a little bit lighter. So I'm getting a little bit of my white here. And go all the way to the top. So the middle third is kind of open. And then the bottom and top thirds, this top third has the foliage and the bottom third has the foreground. So we can go all the way up here. There is some of the sky kind of peeking through here, so don't do it solid yet. You don't want it completely solid, and it goes down a little bit in some places. So just very, very lightly down in here. Okay, that looks good. I'm going to get a little bit of this darker and mix it with my tree color and do a little bit of the darker color now. And the darker is going to be up towards the top a little bit more. And it comes down a little bit to the side. It kind of what is that? Vignette. It kind of does a vignette a little bit. It kind of comes in darker along the edges here. So, all right, that looks good. And I'm going to set that aside and grab my number 2 round. I'm going to use the same color. And I'm just going to start right up where these two colors meet here. Come down just below it a little bit and start doing some little trees. Go all the way up. And just wiggle. And they're kind of just these long, spindly little trees. And add a little bit of white to them because I want them to really kind of almost disappear back here. So there's a couple of them that are side by side right here that need to be a little bit softer. Keep them kind of small. There we go. See that? So by starting with the same color as our trees, it really, they almost disappear up here into the dark canopy.
Just slide your canvas to the right just a little bit.
Okay. Oops, I'm gonna make it a little fudge there where it started, but that's okay. Okay. Now right here where I kind of mussed it up a little bit, I'm just gonna get some of that background color, and with all of these, I'm just going to kind of go over the bottom a little bit and smudge that out. So just kind of go over while that paint's wet and just smudge that out a little bit so it kind of disappears it. Where that bottom of the tree meets the canvas. You can use your finger too if you want to. But just a little bit of this color, pulling it up into the tree, and then back down works too. But see how that we just kind of blended out all the ends of the trees, and that helps create that soft effect. And they don't look like they're pasted on top. They're part of the scenery now. Okay. These are drying faster than I thought they would. All right, so getting some of the darker color now. So going up, bumping it up maybe 1 or 2 notches in the value scale. So darkish, but not as dark, as the foreground trees. And then we're just going to come down just a little bit farther. So, but we're still pretty far away. We don't want to go past like right in here, because this whole area is going to be our pink. So we want to leave ourselves plenty of room for that. So just come down just a little tiny bit here. And as I'm going up, you can see like right here where it got really thin right in the middle. So I need to go back over that and just press a little harder and make sure that my tree is getting narrower as it goes up and doesn't have a weird like skinny part in the middle. Okay.
Oh, I don't have that.
You don't have a weird skinny part in the middle? No. Me either. And we bought like a huge amount of candy yesterday too. We buy them for the kids, quote unquote.
Yes, but we're doing quality and safety checks on all the Halloween candy.
Right.
We do it for the kids.
We do. It's a tough job.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go ahead and kind of give that one a split right there. And again, just kind of making these up. Just trying to make sure that they're kind of random. So there's one in here that kind of splits off, and then it has a second part right here that meanders up. Before that dries, I want to get my yellow and just do the same thing at the bottom of these trees. Just kind of I'm pulling some of that color down from the top where it's still wet, and then just spreading it out a little bit. There we go. Just need a little grounding. That's all. Okay. Keep on going here. Going a little bit darker with this one. And maybe go a little bit thicker with it too. The spooky part comes with the wiggling, like it's that kind of creepy wiggling that's happening here. That's what makes them look a little bit spookier. So just that. Right, and then there's once we get most all of these in where we want them to be, then we can adjust and add branches and other things. Most of the branches are coming from about halfway up. Go a little bit darker on this one. Those. Okay, let's do some over here. Okay, let's do a couple back here that are kind of behind these main trees, but I'm going to keep them pretty light. What are you laughing at?
I wasn't laughing. I was blowing cat hair off of my keyboard and stuff.
Cashmere has spent the last year mad at us for getting a dog. And then she's finally decided she holds a grudge like nobody else. It took her about a year to get out of her snit. And now she's decided that she wants to be on our laps and get in all our business again. So we're both kind of trying to decide if we're glad.
I posted a picture in the Thankful Art group with the link to tonight's video.
Mm-hmm.
And just to see to show people what I was dealing with.
The cat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, she was all up and down Mark's business there before the show. Alrighty. I like it. It's looking good so far. So, I'm going to get that paint out of there if I can before we go much further. Okay. And, okay. Just making a mess here. These long canvases always make my workspace much tighter. It's harder. Like, everything's running into each other. Okay. Here we go. All right. So now we've got all of our trees down. I still need to mess with the bottom of them, but I'm not going to worry about it right this minute. I'm going to grab my dark gray, little bit of turquoise. And I'm going to do another layer of foliage. So, and again, just very light touches. And this should be just about the same darkness as my tree trunks that we've been doing. So it'll kind of disappear the top parts of our tree trunks and give us a nice, really good mid-ground color. That looks great. Okay. Very good. Okay, I'm gonna get all right, let's go ahead and start on our foreground a little bit. So I'm gonna start with, let me see. Let's go ahead and start with this large 5/8 inch, and I'm going to use my background, if I've got any color here, that background sky color, adding a little bit of my yellow oxide to it. I'm going to grab a little bit of burnt sienna too, just to warm it up slightly. And lots of white, I'm getting that foliage color. And I'm going to Tap over. Good. So this should be just about the same value as what we've got going on in the background here. So it can be a little bit different color, but it should be close to the same value so that it's not too jarring right here from the get-go. So getting and get-go, not get-go. So, in case the
No commercial.
translation was wrong there. So just in case. Let's just be clear.
I didn't know geckos were spooky. Okay, check.
Just making sure we're all on the same page here.
And we're not selling insurance.
No. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna get some of that. There we go. Bring some of these down a little bit. I'm just going to use this to kind of tap over and pick up a little bit of that color and just spread it around. Okay, there we go. So I just want to kind of disappear the bottoms of those trees a little bit. Again, like we were doing before. Making sure I have some of these coming down a little bit farther than the others. Okay. What?
I'm trying to get some dabbing action. I switch over to Cycam and then you stop dabbing.
Mm-hmm. There we go. Alrighty. Then this foreground area is really dark, so I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit of black, a little bit of burnt sienna, and my turquoise. A dark green, and I'm just going to kind of pull up with this. There's several layers. Most of them are actually going to be kind of pink and purple, so I'm not going to go all the way up with this, but I am going to get a little bit of this and add it to my yellow that I was just using and make a transition between that yellow and this foreground dark. So a little bit of green.
When you have a moment, could you explain a little bit more by what you mean the same value?
Yes. Value is just the light and dark. So when I'm saying the same value, I'm not talking about the color. So this is a value scale here. So I could have a light green and a light yellow and a light pink that are all in that same lightness, and that's what I was talking about here. So my my pink or my yellow that I was using here is the same value as, or close to, as the yellow that I had used before, but it doesn't have to be the exact same color. It can be a little bit off. It just has to be kind of the same light and dark, and that way when I'm doing this, it'll kind of blend in and it'll make sense. It won't be too dark. So here I've added more white, and I'm going right up to this, and it's only this. So this one that I'm adding now, if this is my yellow that I've got down, I'm going right here. I'm just going just a slight value closer, and then this foreground is like in here. So I'm going from here to about here in this midground to about here in the far, and then this distance is kind of in here somewhere. Makes sense? So those are the values that I was talking about. That just means light and dark. It's a way to create the distance, because the things that are closer to us are going to be darker and more contrasted. So the closer to us we get, the more variation we're going to see in our values. We're going to see the darkest darks and the lightest lights. And then these distant trees, they're going to be much closer to this background color, and they're going to be much lighter in value. Okay, getting that dark color now. Again, and adding some of that back in. And so now I've got my dark to light. Nice gradation here, and I don't have to have it exact because most of this we're going to be covering up with the pink flowers, but I just wanted some basic shift there from the dark to light in the background. Okay. Now, wet. Ideally, this should be all dry before we go to the next step. I think it is. So I'm going to get my little bit bigger brush. And there's only 4 sets of trees that are in the very foreground area. And actually, I need to do some of the distant bushes before we do that. So I'm going to go ahead and get the 3/8 inch blender and some of my magenta and purple, some white, and I mix a little bit of that background color to it. And what that does is it tones it down. It makes it, it desaturates the color. The ones in the foreground are going to be the brightest and the most dramatic with the color shift. These ones in the background are going to be closer to our background colors. So by adding some of those background colors, some of the yellow or some of the blue sky or both, we will be able to tone these purples down, desaturate them a little bit, and they'll look farther away. Okay, so I'm just going to tap in here and create some little bushes. I'm tapping with the top part there up so that I'm getting nice rounded bushes here. I'm just kind of doing some little rounded bush shapes. That's it.
When you are using the blender, are you dipping it in the water?
No. No, I'm not. Getting a little bit of white, yellow here. Going to use some of the yellow. In between. I'm really simplifying this, so if I was going, I'd be a little bit more careful if I was going for an exact representation, but we're just kind of trying to get it close. So this is going to be the beginner version of this painting. Just a little bit easier less steps, less mixing. So trying to break it down a little bit. All right, so I added a little bit more of the purple there, a little bit more of that green. And basically I want to go to about halfway down here so that I can do these foreground trees, and they'll have a little bit of this behind them. And then what we'll do is create the foreground ones.
Got another question?
Uh-huh.
They would like to know, do they have to use a blender for this?
Do they have to use a blender for that?
Yeah, the blender brush. For
No,
what you're doing
you
now.
can use whatever you've got that would do foliage. So you can use, if you've got a small Deerfoot Stippler or just something else that works for you, just use what you've got in your brushes. You could even use an old scruffy brush. It doesn't have to be a blender. It just has to be kind of able to get this kind of foliage texture is the main thing. So yeah. You don't have to use the exact brushes that I'm using, just whatever works for you. Just need to be able to, when you tap it, you just want a little bit of fuzziness. So you can even use an old brush that's just kind of all beat up, if it gives you this good kind of texture. I'm having, there we go. I'm pulling back down some of this. Just kind of blending out that line between those, that yellow in distance and these foreground here. Trying to, again, kind of continue that distant blend just right along there. Okay, that looks good. I'm going to go ahead and mix up a little bit more of that tree branch color, which was the ultramarine blue, and a little bit of black and burnt sienna. Add a little bit of white. I am running out of these paint colors. Okay, and then the trees have some white, but they're kind of almost outlined with this darker color. So this color should be darker than any of the other trees that we've done so far. And this one's going to sit right here, and it's going to come up and angle out and then back in, and then go out and up. Right, then let's get a little bit more right in here, just bigger one. Like that. Yeah. Again, make sure that you are going all the way up off the canvas and making sure that you're narrowing your branches as they go up, so you don't have a middle area that has a wider branch than down at the bottom. And then these two, where they meet up, is pretty thick. Here we come. And doing some smaller branches off to the side. You can use a liner brush for this if you want. This brush does okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and use it. But if you want, the liner brush will be a little bit easier to use probably to get smaller, thinner branches. Just making sure that you've got thinned out paint is the main thing. That's why I use this fluid acrylic, because it's already kind of thinned out and easier to do lines. Okay, then we've got a tree right back in here. It's a big one. And really, you're making up this forest, so you can put these trees wherever you want to put them. This one is a little bit farther back than all the rest of them are a little bit farther back. So you've got these two that are in the foreground here that are closest, and then there's a set here and over here that are a little bit farther away, a little bit farther back, or closer, or closer to the horizon. And now that I've got, my other trees in here, I'm just trying to kind of place these in between some of the ones that I've already done. So it may not be exactly what my photograph is showing. I'm just trying to kind of arrange them so that so that maybe this goes in between these ones here, somewhere in here. I like these kind of trees. They're really easy to do, honestly. They're not difficult, and they're really a lot of fun because you can kind of just wiggle and let them kind of emerge on their own. You don't have to, don't overthink it. Just kind of do it quickly. Doesn't have to be exactly the way it looks in the photograph. I've seen some artists teach, to do them in sections. So like little sections like this. If you have trouble, doing straight lines, you can do your lines in smaller sections, and that actually can, look good. So just up to you. I'd say just don't let it stress you out too much. Enjoy it. And if you're having troubles, most of the time it's either the brush you're using or the consistency of the paint. So if your paint is too thick, it's not going to come off these brushes because the round brush needs to have very fluid paint. I'm going to do this one a little bit closer to the inside right here. It has to be fluid, and it has to be so you just barely have to touch down for it to come off your brush. If it's too thick, you will have to press really hard to get it off your brush, and then you'll end up with lines that are thicker than what you want them to be. So that's the first thing to check. And then sometimes your brush just won't come to a good point. If it doesn't come to a point here, it's not going to come to a point on your canvas. So whatever it looks like, if you've got a brush and then you twist it to a point and it's still doing like this, it's not going to magically make you a straight line on your canvas. You got to have a brush that will come to a really nice thin point for you, for it to be able to do these nice thin lines on the canvas. So, and then sometimes you may want to just shift the angle that you're painting. Sometimes that can help. I'm going to get a little bit of black now and just add some little bits on top of this with that little just texture. Not really doing a whole lot, just kind of dragging it and adding little bits of texture to my tree trunk. Not all of them have it, but they all have a little bit of white. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let those dry really well, and then we'll work on this foreground, and then we'll come back in and add our little bits of white to our birch trees, and it'll really bring out the tree trunk textures. All right, so I'm going to go back to my blender here, or you can use whatever brush you prefer, and I'm going to get my purple and my Quinacridone Magenta. I'm going to go really dark at first, and I'm going to create my little areas where I want my bushes to live. So I've already got this green, so I want a little bit of the green to peek through here and there, but I don't want to go any higher than my far trunks though, so with this dark purple. So I'm just going up to these tree trunks and not going any farther up. So creating some of these little pockets of bushes. You can use any brush you want. This one, just really using it because it's
Got a question.
easier to control, I think. What?
They would like to know, can they mix heavy body and fluid acrylics together?
Yes, any of your acrylics can be mixed. So any acrylic paints, no matter what brand or consistency, can be mixed. So you could mix your heavy body acrylics with craft paints if you wanted to, or, whatever. It's not going to matter. And that, that'll make it easier to, if you've got, if you're missing a color in your fluid acrylics that you want to use for this, then just, yeah, by all means, use a little bit of the heavy body acrylics or whatever else you've got. Mix it in, it'll be just fine. I've even mixed latex with acrylics. So house paints, when I do murals, I used to mix up. I wouldn't do that with every water-based paint because like oil or watercolors and acrylics don't mix, but two acrylics do mix. You could paint over watercolors with acrylics, I would think, possibly. Actually, I don't know. That might, they're different, as long as you were doing it on paper, I think it'd be fine. They're different consistencies, so, or not consistency, binders. So acrylics got that polymer binder, and watercolors are usually gum arabic or sometimes honey. Okay, this is going to look really dark. It's okay. We're not going to leave it this dark, but we've got to get these dark areas in here. We kind of started out dark, but I didn't put it dark enough in some of these places. So,
follow-up question. Mm-hmm. Then could you use the fluid acrylics to thin the heavy bodies? Yeah,
you can. Mm-hmm. Yes, I would caveat that though, that, you know, if you're just wanting to thin it, I wouldn't waste paint. I would just use water. You know, if that's all you're needing. But the nice thing about these fluid acrylics are that they're as pigmented as the heavy body acrylics. So when you're, if you're not losing the intensity of the color like you would if you were adding water. So that is one good thing. Okay, so adding a little bit of white to my Quinacridone Magenta, and now I'm going to start adding my little pinks. So I want to go in between kind of these colors a little bit brighter now. And I'm going to just, and it's fine that my purple's not dry. It's okay. It's not going to matter. It'll blend with it a little bit, but I might just have to reload my brush every now and then. Okay. Mainly I just want to make sure that when I'm tapping, I'm kind of going on the top area. So find a cluster and go on top of it. So I've got this cluster of dark right here. So I'm going to go just above it and leave a little bit of that dark in between these two sections. Does that make sense? And then skip around and just find my next area. So here's another cluster right here. So I'm going to go just above on top of that and create a little thing there. And right here, there's one. So right there. And just trying to kind of create a little bit of distance too between these little bunches of flowers. So, and then the ones in the distance are going to be smaller than these clumps in the foreground are going to be a little bit bigger. So these will, you know, maybe this one will span this whole section here and come on down into here.
Real quick, person wants to know why when they mix red and blue together, they get mud instead of purple?
Okay, that's a good question. Depends on the red and the blue you're using. So if you're using a blue that's very green based, so like a phthalo blue or something like that, it's going to make it's got a lot of yellow in it, right? Yellow, green, yellow and blue make green. So yellow is opposite on the color wheel from purple. So it's going to counteract that intensity of color. So you have to use a blue that is really close to purple already, like an ultramarine blue, that's already got a lot of red tones in it. And then same with your red. If you're using a cadmium red light or something like that, that is close to orange, again with the yellow, it will counteract the purple that you're trying to make, and it'll create a muddier color. So you have to use a red that's closer to like magenta to get a good true purple. So you have to my favorite purple would be, you know, like for a really bright, intense purple would be Ultramarine Blue and Quinacridone Magenta, because they're really only like one color away from purple in the middle of them. So look at your color wheel and pick colors that are close closer to the color you're trying to mix, if that makes sense. Let me see if I can get a color wheel here. So if I'm trying to make violet, I want to use a red and a blue that are closest to violet on the color wheel. If I use this red and this blue, I'm going to get a color that's more muddy than if I use these two. That would be like an ultramarine blue and a magenta. Make sense? Is that too much? TMI?
No, but somebody made the comment, and I was thinking it. I love how Angela gets so excited about color questions. I don't have to jack up your volume any. I mean, you're just like, boom, you are there. You can tell.
It's my favorite thing to talk about.
The enthusiasm. I was hoping somebody would ask.
Yes. Okay, I know this. I know this answer. I'm going to keep the most intense color right here in the middle too to draw the eye in. So I'm going to use some of this pink back here, but I'm going to add a little bit more of the magenta to it so that it's a little bit darker tone, just so that I have a little bit darker color back in here, in this area. And that will again kind of create that sort of vignette that we're drawing the eye in towards the middle here. And that's pretty. I love this color combination. When I saw this photo, I was like, ooh, I want to paint that. Every now and then, there's just like something that kind of sticks out that way. When I'm scrolling for images, this was definitely one that I was like, kind of already trying to figure out how I would paint it when I saw it. Okay, so now getting the brightest pink here. And I haven't cleaned out my brush. It's still got a little bit of purple, but mostly magenta and white. And I'm going to tap very lightly. And then this is going to be my most intense bright color. So I want to go the lightest with it as far as the lightest touch. I don't want to add it in a lot of places. I'm going to add a little bit more here. It's going to dry a little. Ooh, what in the world happened there?
Did you do?
Just don't look there. Just ignore that. I accidentally picked up a little bit of that. When I picked it up, I dipped into that. No problem. Just keep on going here. I am going to use a little bit of that mid-tone color that I was using over here. So a little. Little, I think this is heather, maybe. I'm not really sure. It looks kind of like it would be heather. I don't think it's a lavender, because that would be a lot more spiky. Somebody from England would be able to tell us. They're probably all asleep.
They're watching.
There's some? I guess it's early. Well, no, it would be really late for them.
Yeah, it's like 1 or 2 in the morning.
Oh, wow. Y'all are diehard.
Gotta catch your favorite show live.
I love it. It's awesome.
You're doing great. So your first day of training is doing well. You got like 3 or 4 more trainings
What do you mean?
leading up to November 2nd. So
Oh. Yeah. Mark's Oak Island show. It's a fantasy show about men who think that there's treasure under the ground. Why they think that, I don't know, but they keep digging holes all over this island just to try to find it.
All the treasures known to mankind,
Exactly.
for all time known,
All
is buried there.
are buried there. Yep.
And why wouldn't it be?
I don't know, because every time I bury treasure, I'm like, let me just leave this here for hundreds of years and not tell anybody where it's buried. That's my plan. That's how I go about it.
I'll just give you that look when they find it. That's all I'm gonna say.
Just like, why would you bury something and not tell anybody where it was or leave,
the one time I
or
wanted to do
actually
right.
go back and get it maybe at some point, or
Okay, suddenly your mic is not working. So I'll just narrate the rest of this. So we're putting some purple stuff there.
I'm adding turquoise and ultramarine blue and my yellow, and I'm just creating little grasses here in between my tufts of, like I said, I had high hopes for it at like the first 12 seasons. I don't know how many seasons there are, but seems like 12. But now the more time passes that they don't find anything, I think we're on a
They found some
fool's
stones.
errand.
They found some rocks under the mud. So excuse me.
Okay.
Just
It's true.
just
It's
stop.
true.
Stop being the
It's true.
hater.
They found.
There you go.
And they found some oxen shoes in the middle of a farm field. Who would think that? Well, I mean, what are the chances?
And buttons. Lots of buttons.
What?
All right, adding some of the purple and yellow. I'm sorry, magenta and yellow together here. Add a little bit of this blue. I want like a light. Oops, that's the zinc white. Just a light gray, and we can add just a tiny bit of black to it. Tiny bit of black. All right, so that's good. And I'm going to use the 1/4-inch blender now. And I don't know if this is going to be the right brush for this. Yeah, I don't think that's quite right. Let me go ahead and go back to the 2. Or actually, you know what I would probably be the best one would be a small flat. So I'm going to get the 2 flat, 2 bright right here. Number 2 bright. There we go. All right, and that way I can set it right up against that edge. There we go. And pull in. And just add some of my little details to my birch trees. Add a little bit of blue to this black here. And just, a little bit bright. Let me get a little bit of white. So it's just slightly grayed out. Okay. I already kind of added a little bit of my black, but just going over that white a little bit. Go ahead and zoom in on this because I feel like this deserves a little zoom.
Nothing feels good. I'm going to do that.
There we go. So don't use too much paint here because I want it to be kind of dry brushed. Like I had a little too much there, so I'm going to have that off. But just kind of brushing through. It should be close to white, but not as bright as the background, so just slightly darker maybe than the background. Or if it is, the background value, then just make sure that you don't go right up to the edge because you don't want this branch to kind of disappear. You want it to be visible. So get a little bit of that white now, and right up in here just starts to go ahead and go over that branch. Kind of pull to the side with it. And then get my dark color and just coming up and kind of dabbing with the black that's got a little bit of the little bit of that light color in it. And create some little spots and things in our, it kind of does these rings almost, stripes in the tree. Okay, looks good. And then let's do a little bit on this one. There's just not as many on these distant trees. You're not seeing as much, so just a little bit.
So it's the beginning of the month. Ish. Yeah, it still is just the 5th of October today. Patreon.com/AngelFineArt. Did you already talk about it?
No, we're going to be doing our bonus video this weekend, though.
Yeah, this Sunday for the $5 folks.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna be some kind of a mountain lake.
Yeah.
Fallish
nice
scene.
fun landscape.
Yeah.
Be fun. And then we'll have the traceable for this. If you're not one that likes to draw, we've got traceables available at my $2 level on Patreon, and you can use basically all videos from 2017 to present have a traceable that you can use to get a head start on your painting.
Nice.
Trace it onto your canvas. And then the $10 level, we're going to be starting on Thursday. We'll be starting on our new, and we're doing a really cute hedgehog with some mushrooms for that. And those videos, usually the $10 level ones, you can zoom back out, or I'll just move this over. $10 level ones, we usually meet for about an hour to 2 hours on Thursdays and work on a project until it's done. So we just do that all month long, and so it's usually a good, a lot of times it's 6 hours or so to finish whatever it is we're painting. Sometimes less, depends on what we're doing. This hedgehog probably won't take the whole month to do, I would think, but I never know until I get going on it, All right, I'm just going to use this a little bit on some of these trees back here.
And videos like this are probably made possible by patrons.
They are, I know, yep, because they keep us...
keep the lights on.
Keep the lights on, yep.
So
YouTube
we're able to bring free videos to the masses.
It is, it's, yep, lots of equipment upgrades. We're talking about getting new lighting to help counteract some of the problems we have with lighting. So it just makes it so that when we do need to upgrade our equipment, we've got the money there to do it. And when we first started Patreon, we ended up getting new cameras, and we needed new microphones. We needed a lot of stuff. So you guys were able to, our patrons really helped us get to where we're at today with our quality on our videos. If it weren't for them, we would still be struggling. Yeah, it's been pretty cool, and we try to, I don't know, make sure that they know we appreciate them. It's pretty amazing. Just by kind of doing special videos just for them. That kind of is our way to thanking them for helping support our channel. All right, getting a little bit of the ultramarine blue and yellow here. Making a kind of a mossy green. If I can get it to make it green. Here we go. turquoise left. The turquoise will make a brighter green. But, right, going to use that a little bit on my tree trunk here. And, yeah, pretty much call that done, I think. I mean, again, we can get fancier and do more grasses or whatever. I do see a few little grasses with a little bit of the yellow oxide, so I might grab a little bit of that and just in a couple places, just pop in a couple little sprigs of grass. And just getting a little bit on the tip of my brush here and just brushing up. There we go. Turned out pretty good. I like it.
Good.
Yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Try it for yourself. I'm going to sign it here. Mark's got a super chat.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Super chat.
Oh, I forgot to do the foliage up here. Sorry. While you do that, I just remembered I have some more foliage to do.
Alrighty, well, we'll bring you some foliage.
Good. Do the green. Go ahead. You can do that.
We had one super chat tonight, and it was from Andy, and she says, I remembered. See that? Says, starting our Oak Island fund. Thank you so much, Andy. We have a believer.
I love it. You're a bad influence, honey.
They've seen the light.
I love it. All right, getting some green here, and there's just a little bit at the end of this. Here, there's a little bit of green right in here. I don't know. We probably could have done without that. I don't know if I love it. Do a little bit over here. I think it needs to be darker. A little bit more of that blue.
So how much gold can I buy for $5, and then I can go bury it on the island for them?
Right.
Make them feel better.
It's kind of oh no.
Oh yeah. There's more super chat coming in. We got more converts.
Nice.
Oh, come on, turn off. Thank you. This one's from Dana. No special message, but there's a laughing, rolling pear.
Nice. Thank you, Dana.
I called it an avocado last time, and I got corrected. So I think it's a pear.
It's a pear.
So moo
Nice.
out to Dana.
More cowbell. Thank you, Dana. And who was the first one?
Andy.
Andy. Thank you, Andy and Dana. Very sweet.
Yes, thank you very, very much.
Even if you are encouraging, Mark. We appreciate it. That is bright. I'm probably gonna let that dry
good.
and glaze back over that.
We'll know which painting is
tone it
yours.
down. Wow. Okay. And I am seeing that this area up here is darker.
Yeah.
So
Do it.
I am going to. Oh my gosh, this
Bring
is
the dark.
so wet.
Well, you put it in the water.
I know.
And it's the sponge. It usually does that.
Yeah. I should have put on my gloves here. Oh my goodness. Okay. Here. And I have no clean spot left to do this. So I'm going to try.
This is how the pros do it, everybody.
No, this is not.
Oh, you're even. Yeah, there you go.
All right, we'll see. Maybe a little bit of burnt sienna. Turquoise and ultramarine blue. So I wanted to go a little bit darker. There we go. Mainly in these corners. And what I can do is put this on. And I had actually gotten out my Zinc White to fog up my canvas too. So if you wanted to at the end here, you could go over some of this with your foggy I'll show you how to do that, because I think that would look kind of cool too. So get a clean Deerfoot stippler and just dip into your Zinc White and some glaze, kind of 50-50, and then wipe most of it off. That's really important. So you don't want a lot on your brush, just a little tiny bit. And then make sure that your paint is dry, because if it's not, it will just lift off. But I can kind of go over. These are dry. Can go over, especially this part that's like kind of in the background here. It really will help to kind of fuzz everything out and make it look a little bit more misty. So it's a good little trick. So, and I'm actually going fairly thick with this because that Zinc White is so transparent. It's coming off, or it's not going to overpower it. But see that? Okay. So a little bit darker and just a little bit of that mist coming behind those trees there. Helps kind of push them all back and make them look a little bit more misty. All right, there we go. That's much better. So having the darker up at the top. We needed that dark to kind of counteract the... I might even go one more layer here. Just in the upper corners, just to really darken it up in the corners there. That helps. Okay, there we go. All right.
What about like dead center?
For real this time. What?
What about like dead center? It seems like there's a dark spot. Oh no, I guess that's a green spot there. Never mind.
Where?
Like right in the center, but it's like the green, and you got it there. You got it there.
Oh, that. Yeah. And so I can go back over that and do that again if I need to, because it's kind of disappeared now. A little bit more of my yellow oxide with this color, and do that just over the top right there. Much better. There we go. Help that show up again. All right, we're done.
Well, newsletters, all that over at thankfulart.com.
Yes.
And if you're new to the channel, just remind everybody that down below this video, if you click the little arrow or show more, it will give you the listing of all the paint colors, canvas size, links to different vendors. Yes.
All that good stuff that we used today.
Yeah, we had another person post in the Thankful Art Facebook group praise for the reactivity of the brush guys and being able to get them their brushes quickly.
Yeah.
And at a reasonable cost. So there's a link down below for them too.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and do a little bit down back in here.
And just watch. What makes this really spooky is that you don't know when you're gonna get the paint boogers. So. And it's not really as spooky as the one you did on Saturday.
Why?
So, of the headless woman. So, yeah.
She wasn't headless.
Why do you think she's carrying an umbrella?
Okay.
I'm just saying.
True. I didn't even think of that.
Why else would she be carrying an umbrella on a day that it's not raining?
Good point.
Logic.
All right, I'm just fiddling here, but just kind of adding little bits of final detail here.
And it's just a standard sea sponge, right?
Yes.
It's a real sea sponge. It's not like
it's a real sea sponge, yeah.
And you can get that at any hobby store, right?
Pretty much, yeah. It's usually used for watercolors, so it's pretty common. And most of them are smaller. I think I got that one off of Amazon. So, but I included links in my acrylic painting supplies list. So if you go to Amazon, the link down in the description, you can find the ones that I bought in my shop. All right, and I'm just bringing some of this down, just kind of some of the more smoky trees. A little bit of the Zinc White.
And this is the channel also where we dispel that long-held wives' tale that once you sign a painting, you're done. You don't ever touch it again. We are breaking all the rules. We're throwing them out the door.
I never do that.
That's right.
That is not how I operate.
Go
My signature is I think I'm done, but I'm gonna look at it again, and like decide. So that's kind of where my signature comes in. I don't really love any of this here, so try to soften that up.
But we encourage people to not worry about the rules.
No.
Just have fun with it.
Mm-hmm. There's plenty of people who have opinions about what you should be doing with your art, but if you enjoy it, that's the most important thing. So, all right, I'm going to stop there before I mess this up.
Oh, no, keep going, please.
Okay.
We're just going to get more donations.
All right, there we go.
This super chat during the second overtime portion of the show is brought to you by Michael and says, thank you both, Mark, or Angela and Mark. Awesome job.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it.
Super sweet. Okay.
It's kind of like an auctioneer. Okay. Any other offers? Anybody?
Going.
Going once?
All right, guys, I'm going to stop there. For real.
No, she's not.
Thanks. Thanks for hanging out with us. And yeah, because I don't want to cover up my tree trunks here. Those are supposed to be in the foreground, so I keep messing with that background. Really, it's kind of messing up the foreground. I'm going to have to redo my tree trunks here or take that color off there so that with a little bit of water so that they look like they're in front of all this mess.
So once again, it is just a regular large sea sponge that you can find in hobby stores and art stores. And she's using shop towels. They're the paper towels that you'd normally find in the automotive section of your big box stores.
Yep.
But you can find those also in the links at Amazon.
Yes, I buy them by the box because I use so many of them.
By the case, yes.
By the case, yeah. Yeah.
And you use those because they're a little bit more durable and they don't lint as much.
Right, exactly. They don't leave marks on my paint canvas. Okay, so I'm just going back over these areas here with that dark because these need to be in front. So I did so much of the background there with the more trees and everything. And you can even add more of the white if you need to once you get this dry. Get this on there. But there we go. That's better. All right, now that brought them back forward. That's what you got to have, that forced perspective there, or it doesn't look like these are behind one another. Okay, that's it. Let's in there. And thanks for watching. And we will see you guys on Saturday. Our patrons on Thursday and Sunday this week. So our schedule is posted on my social media. So if you go to my Instagram, that's one of the better places to find it. Also on my Facebook page. And you can see the links to everything that we're going to be painting in October there, including the Patreon stuff. So if you're interested in that. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you Saturday. Bye.